Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Heat Metal.
Metal, hot. This is a spell that Bob it's near and dear to your heart, right?
Yeah, I like this one.
It's
Horrible, like horrifyingly effective. I mean, it's
sure. This is a second level transmutation spell for bards, druids, artificers, and forge domain clerics. Takes an action to cast 60-foot cast range. Rolls magic material components. Those material components being a piece of iron and of flame. So you have to have a lantern or something because it's a flame. Like you need a physical. It's not important. Concentration duration 1 minute. It's a neat little
might
hiccup.
be important. Yeah.
Yeah. Choose a manufactured metal object, such as a metal weapon or suit of heavy armor or medium metal armor that you can see within range. You cause the object to glow red hot. Any creature in physical contact with the object takes 2d8 fire damage when you cast the spell. Until the spell ends, you can use a bonus action on each of your turns to cause this damage again. And you may not have noticed, there is not a save in sight. That just happens. If a creature is holding or wearing the object and takes damage from it, it makes a con saving throw to drop the object if it can. If it doesn't drop the object, it has disadvantage attack rolls and ability checks until the start of your next turn. That mainly applies to weapons. And then you can upcast it to get a bonus d8 damage on the cast and bonus actions. Probably don't want to do that. Maybe you do against a giant steel clad giant or something, like a cold ice giant wearing plate mail, which is rare.
No save.
But, yeah, the no save is a huge deal. Honestly, that's the whole reason I think there's any kind of meaningful conversation about the spell, because it is a niche effect that affects a subset of enemies. Like, not every encounter you're going to be against things that heat metal can even hit anything. Against beasts and giant octopi and mind flayers and dragons, this is dead. This just does nothing. There's no metal on them to care about. But against Death Knights, against big armor-clad paladins, against anything wielding a rapier or a sword or something that you would like to disarm, if the second level slot cost and concentration isn't prohibitive to you, which means normally you're on the mid tiers, it's pretty reasonable effect. I don't hate a second level disarm enemy of their 2d10 greatsword or whatever if I'm dealing with giants. I really like lighting things in plate armor on fire, and that's where you're definitely gonna get the most juice out of this kind of effect. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's the worst way to kill somebody.
You just love the torment that this causes.
All right, I guess I kind of love it. It gives me chills. Ironically, I suppose.
Thinking about boiling alive inside your own armor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you can't, it takes time to remove armor.
Yeah, it takes 10 minutes. You're not getting out of it before you're dead. That's just not going to happen. You're killing the person concentrating on this before you're able to take it off, right? The effect will expire before you can take the armor off in time. It's just, not a lot of enemies wear plate armor. Not a lot of enemies are wearing metal armor. It's just a real thing to consider, right?
I don't know about that. I mean, most NPCs you find, that are
good guys.
No,
people,
marshals,
guards, and yeah. If I think you're gonna find a lot of goblin armies, orc armies. If we're doing classic fantasy settings, if we look at, I guess, so Tolkien orcs do have quite a bit of chainmail and stuff. Looks like they wear. I would guess you could probably get some in the military status, like hobgoblins and stuff. You would see some amount of use with this. I just don't think, and big dumb monster slaying and adventuring, this is a particularly useful effect, to the point where you kind of want to know what game you're playing in before you take it, which is why I think it's particularly good on cleric. The fortune domain, just getting it for free is oh, hey, I just have this whenever I need it. Nifty. Or on druid, where you can be we're going to fight people? Great. Heat metal, get in the box. You're coming with us, and we're going to light some people on fire and be horribly tormenting the people using metal, which is a fun little punishment for a class that's designed not to use metal. So that's fun. But bards and artificers, though, no, I don't see it. It's too niche.
Yeah. I mean, all right, not everybody's wearing armor, but a lot of people are fighting with swords.
Okay, this is a good conversation. When do you think it's worth the second level slot and your action to disarm somebody? I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but I do think there is a point where it becomes worth it, and I don't know what point that is.
I guess it depends on the I don't know if it's a matter of there comes a point or the particular fight. If there's 8 guys with swords running at you, disarming one of them isn't going to have a huge consequence. If it's one big dude, then that makes a bigger difference.
Yeah. And that's kind of like a sliding scale, right? So if you have one big dude making one attack roll a turn with a great sword, but also has a giant boulder that they don't mind just chucking around, right? Like it still isn't necessarily that effective. If you're against one Merilith that's making 12 attacks with a single sword, and you're like, that's got to go away, it's incredibly effective. Like it's like, oh, all of a sudden we've neutered the only thing that it's good at. Excellent.
Or if
Merilith might be
somebody's
a bad
got a
example.
magic sword.
Yeah, I love that this hits hits magical objects, so you can be like, oh, that is a a Vorpal sword that has to go, light it on fire. Now they can choose to try and keep hold of it. They can choose to
That's
make a
even
con
more
save,
fun.
and then you're not solving this Vorpal sword problem at that point, right? So you get this kind of
You're
odd
making them
situation.
suffer.
Yeah, but they're gonna cut your head off with a Vorpal sword, so there's like a. It's not really consistent at doing the disarming thing if you really, really need something disarmed. So I end up thinking like I probably see and want this if I'm going against like 3 to 4 mid-sized enemies that predominantly use a single weapon. And then I was like, okay, one of them I can disarm and do damage to them to progress us towards the end of the fight while also meaningfully neutering them. That is kind of where I want my disarms to be with this, I think, is like 3 or under, 4 or under mid-sized multi-attacking enemies with metal weapons. That's pretty niche. I still don't think I necessarily want this against a lot of enemies that have other fine options at their disposal, right? Like there's a lot of enemies that are going to have different, especially in the mid to upper CRs, they got plenty of options outside their single weapon attack. They can pull other options out and fight with, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's a cool spell. It's one, if I have the option to take it, I guess it really depends on my other options, but I will consider it strongly.
Yeah. Again, it's where I really like it on Druid. As on Druid, you can like put this in your back pocket, just think about it every once in a while, examine it every time you take a long rest and go, is this a session for heat metal? I think it is. And then you try it out and probably have a good time with it if you know going into it, like, oh, we're doing city-based stuff today. We're fighting like, an evil wizard in their mage tower and their army of like armor-clad skeletons and animated suits of armor and stuff, right? That's where I'm like, oh yeah, this seems great there. But if I'm going, off into the wilderness to fight bugbears and hunt the evil menacing werewolf that's been terrorizing the town, I probably have no desire to have this anywhere near my character sheet. I like these kinds of spells that they exist because they give you fun questions like that as to when do I want to prepare this, and makes the prepared casters honestly a lot more interesting to me. I love that this is not a wizard spell. Love that.
Oh,
Big
I didn't even
props.
realize that.
Yeah, it's Bard,
Druid.
Artificer, yep, and Forge Domain Cleric. That's it. For
Oh.
Bards, it's uncastable, but everyone else is great. I love it. Bards don't. Well, also Artificers don't love it either. But like, again, the classes that prepare it or have it auto prepared, which is just Druid, it's great. Like this is a fine little option to have on your spell list that does a lot of heavy lifting, and you pull it out. It's a cool tool. You'll feel like in that one encounter with the metal armor thing, you are the hero. You are doing your cool thing. You're lighting the armor on fire. They're burning them inside. You got a free decent bonus action every round. Yeah, what's not to love?
What about creatures that are actually made of metal? Warforged, iron golems.
It targets manufactured metal objects. So creatures aren't objects. So I did say animated armor. That might not be correct.
Sure, a warforged. It's forged. It's in the name.
Yes, but it constitutes as a creature, not an object, and those two things are separate in game terms.
Right. Yeah.
So, like,
I was focused on the manufactured part.
Yeah,
The manufactured creature. Got it.
Yes, exactly. So you can't like literally boil a warforged alive. From my reading of this, I think a lot of DMs, I would be included in this ruling. 100% that's cool. 1,000,000% I'm saying, yeah, the animated armor, you can definitely heat metal, the thing that literally is supposed to be the most susceptible to this kind of effect. That seems pretty spicy and pretty cool to me. So yeah. Rules is written though, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. Trying to think, does this combine with anything else? Like, could you
heat your own metal? I don't know why you would. If you want to heat metal your longsword and stab people with it, like, you're technically allowed to do that. I probably wouldn't, but like, just because second level spell slots.
That's not where I was going. No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why you took for granted that I was.
Listen, what else? Like, are you envisioning gifting people? Like, hey, put this on.
That did cross my mind, but no. I was thinking of something. Like, could you fabricate something and like fabricate like a box around them and heat it up?
So what I'm envisioning right now is you have a very vindictive wizard that's rolling over and requires all of his minions wear plate armor for this exact reason. And so if you disobey him, he'll boil you alive in the armor that he crafted you. That's a pretty cool little villainous arc. I like that you can have that kind of leverage as like a villainous druid or a villainous cleric or bard. I don't know. That sounds sweet to me, right? I like the idea of the battle wagon has like that's being pulling along, has like metal defenses on the walls for arrows or whatever, and then you heat metal the whole of the battle wagon and all the orcs inside start boiling alive. That could be pretty cool.
There you go. Yeah.
But that's like a Warhammer fantasy kind of object, right? That's pretty far removed from typical D&D combat, typical high fantasy stuff. It could happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It's just even a more niche scenario and environment than where I think heat metal is regularly going to be castable.
All right. Well, heat metal. What do you think?
I think it's a 3. I think it's cool when you bust it down in the right situation. Even in that situation, it's not like backbreaking. A lot of monsters are going to say, okay, I take 2d8 damage. And then you just bonus action that a couple of turns. It's great. Concentration is a pretty tall order, so you don't always want it up because you can't, like, druids have really big, good concentration effects to hold on to. But if you want, like, a silver bullet for a specific kind of enemy that'll make you feel like, oh, yeah, I just melted that thing by myself, this is a spell that helps you do that.
Yeah, I was going to go 4, but I think you talked me down to a 3. I still really like it. I think it's really cool, but the number of situations it's going to come up is perhaps a little more limited than I was thinking I had in mind. But it'll still come up from time to time, and it'll be fun when it does.
Absolutely.
All right, that was heat metal. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Like, subscribe, please, and leave comments and all that, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.